As we gear up for the oldest presidential face-off in American history, we're going to see a recurrent theme: health and competency taking the spotlight over the next 9 months.
Biden faces a challenge.
We got a lot of work to do.
Has no precedent in American history.
Both campaigns will be working overtime to paint their opponent as doddering, senile, and weak, while showcasing their own candidate as the epitome of vim and vigor. The recent bombshell in this ongoing saga dropped last week with a report on an investigation into Biden's handling of classified documents. Special counsel Robert Hur, a Republican and former Trump appointee, made it clear he wasn't slapping charges on Biden, but didn't hold back in suggesting the president's memory lapses, tagging him as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. The Trump campaign seized the opportunity, promptly labeling Biden as senile. In response, the president hurriedly called a news conference, vehemently declaring, "My memory is fine," and expressing frustration at Hur's accusations. I don't know how much room he has to maneuver with that narrative, considering every time he gets on a bike, his personal security is immediately put on high alert. This latest skirmish over Biden's mental sharpness adds to the recent attempts by Biden's team to flip the script on Trump, who's had his fair share of blunders. A fresh ad from the Biden camp doesn't miss a beat, highlighting Trump's recent mix-up where he confused Nikki Haley with former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Both Haley and Biden are capitalizing on Trump's slips, with the ad featuring Haley bluntly stating he's not what he was in 2016, he has declined. And just to keep it fair and square, the video then pivots to Trump's other stumbles, including his claim of winning all 50 states, which didn't happen, and asserting you need voter ID to buy a loaf of bread.
When you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID.
A claim that doesn't quite add up. I mean, in early 2023, former President Bill Clinton made a visit to the White House to join President Joe Biden in celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Family and Medical Leave Act. It's quite a milestone, 3 decades since Clinton's time in office. Remarkably, at 77, he finds himself 3 years younger than Biden. Now, Biden at 81 holds the distinction of being the first octogenarian to occupy the Oval Office. His main rival, former President Donald Trump, is not far behind at 77. A poll conducted by Monmouth University in October 2023 revealed that around 3/4 of voters believe Biden is too old for the office, and nearly half feel the same about Trump. This raises an interesting question about the choices of Biden and Trump, both more than a decade and a half past the average American retirement age, stepping forward once again for one of the most challenging jobs in the world. What motivates them to take on this monumental responsibility? Trump and Biden find themselves among the 3 oldest individuals to ever assume the role of president. For 140 years, William Henry Harrison held the title as the oldest elected president until Ronald Reagan entered the scene. Harrison was a lively 68 when he took office in 1841, while Reagan, at 69, began his presidential journey in 1981. Reagan made history as the oldest person to serve as president when he left office at the age of 77. Trump, on the other hand, left the presidential seat at 74, securing his place as the 3rd oldest to hold the office, trailing behind Reagan and Biden. In the broader context of the nation's demographics, the Census Bureau indicates that the median age in America is 38.9 years old. However, when we look at the House and Senate, the average ages are notably higher at 58 and 64, respectively. This has led to the term gerontocracy being tossed around to describe the governing class in the country. The landscape of American politics isn't just seeing aging leaders at the top. It's become a bipartisan trend. Take Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, who's 72, and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Republican, who's 81. Even Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, now a sprightly 90-year-old after a recent re-election, shows no signs of slowing down. Independent firebrand Senator Bernie Sanders, at 81, hasn't dropped any hints about retirement either. The House has its fair share of seasoned politicians too. Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic stalwart from California and former Speaker, has just thrown her hat in the ring for her 19th full term at the age of 83. Joining her are New Jersey Democrat Bill Pascrell Jr. and Eleanor Holmes Norton, a Democrat representing Washington, D.C., both aged 86. Surprisingly, none of these political veterans have given any retirement signals. A few years back, a local pharmacist on Capitol Hill created a stir by revealing he was filling Alzheimer's medication prescriptions for members of Congress. The numbers tell a story too. Every one of the 20 oldest members of Congress is a sprightly 80 or above, marking this as the third oldest House and Senate since the inception of Congress in 1789. It makes you wonder about the dynamics and impact of having such seasoned individuals at the forefront of American governance. What's the deal with these seasoned leaders hanging on? Typically, most baby boomers delaying retirement are grappling with financial constraints, be it the sting of inflation or a shortage of savings. However, the plot thickens with our political bigwigs. They're not exactly counting pennies. Many are sitting on substantial wealth, waving at the millionaire club. If they were to call it quits, they'd bask in the glory of government pensions, healthcare benefits, and the comforting embrace of Medicare. So it's not a financial tug-of-war for them. Here's a theory. Could it be denial? None of us are particularly thrilled about facing our own mortality. I've come across folks who practically equate retirement with kicking the bucket, possibly influenced by tales of others biting the dust shortly after hanging up their hats. Maybe that's why Senator Dianne Feinstein and Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg stuck around for the long haul, meeting their maker while still on the clock at the ripe ages of 90 and 87. Here's another angle: ego. Some lawmakers seem to have a rather hefty serving of it, believing they're irreplaceable, like the only sheriffs in town. Humility isn't exactly their strong suit. In the political arena, it often boils down to the allure of power for these folks. Picture this: why would they willingly step away from casting those pivotal roles in a closely divided House or Senate, or relinquish the thrill of giving powerful speeches and jet-setting on Air Force One as president, all while convincing themselves they're the unsung heroes saving democracy? No wonder so few of them are keen on throwing in the towel. Now, let's talk about age limits. It's a topic that's been making the rounds. Federal law enforcement officers and even national park rangers have mandatory retirements at 57, but the most pressure-packed job globally has no upper age limit. Some voices suggest slapping on age limits for federal elected office, while others, like Republican candidate Nikki Haley, proposed a different route: mandatory mental competency tests for leaders hitting 75 and older. A poll from September 2023 shows a significant majority of Americans getting behind competency testing. It seems like a sensible idea, a way for the public to know who's on the ball and who might need a bit of a nudge. Stepping aside and considering others, coupled with the wisdom to understand life's brevity and its richness beyond the daily grind, is a mark of true generosity. It's about embracing the grace to heed John F. Kennedy's words, the idea of passing the torch to a new generation of Americans. And these old dogs certainly don't understand that. Professor Larry Sabato, the brains behind the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia, sums it up nicely. At 70, he shares his sympathy for those in their 80s, acknowledging that nowadays 80 looks and feels a lot younger than it once did. However, he's quick to dismiss the notion, deeming it ridiculous. His take: we need to revert to electing individuals in their 50s and early 60s. It seems like many Americans would nod in agreement, echoing a collective "Amen, brother," if you look at the polls. Do you think America needs to elect younger presidents? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching.